Okay, so we should be live now. Just waiting for the feed to catch up, but we should be live now. Josh, I have it at 6 p.m. We do have a quorum, so you can go ahead and go whenever you'd like to.
All right, go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. First thing we have is public comment. Was there any?
I didn't receive any notification. We did have calling in Ellen Alexander from the Island Rowing. I did want to kind of put that on your agenda or on your things to look at, because we do have the racing shell, which is a surplus kind of donation discussion that we're going to have under new business. We may want to move that up and discuss that earlier since she's on the call, so she can answer any questions. I don't know that Ellen has any specific public comment at this point. It would more be relating to the racing shell as far as I'm understanding. Ellen, do you have anything that you wanted to say in general public comment?
No, I don't. It's only related to the racing shell.
Okay. So there you go, Josh. I don't have anybody, nobody else contacted us with public comment for this meeting.
Okay. So did we want to go ahead and talk about
why don't we get
donating
through,
that?
Why don't we get through the business we have to get through first? The approval of minutes, the voucher approval, treasurer's report, and then jump down to that.
All right. So I'll go to approval of minutes. Everybody will have a chance to look at it.
Yes.
All right.
Were there any questions? On the minutes?
All right. Nobody had any questions, so does somebody want to make a motion?
Matt, I motion to approve the minute.
I saw Matt's lips move, but I didn't hear him.
Charles, on mute. I'll make a motion to approve the minute.
I second that. Eric?
Okay, all in favor?
Jennifer, aye. Krista, aye.
Josh, aye.
All right.
Okay, so we'll move to the treasurer's report. So the vouchers list approval.
Let's start with the treasurer's report.
Okay,
it should be coming up on your screen.
Okay. Yeah, you guys see it. So this is the summary report, and remember, up is good. So you can see in the fifth month, where the first is the first month, we're actually below the line, so unfavorable to our plan. And you can see the net is 30K unfavorable relative to plan. And you'll see the spread of that in the next two slides. So go ahead to the next slide. So revenue is the unfavorable category. Expenses are actually positive. So revenue is down a total of 74K at the end of the month, and that's cumulative. You can see the 5 months of the year across the screen. So we've dropped cumulative revenue now to minus 74 to plan. And you can see that's all in program revenue. When you're not running programs, that's what happens. So 74K negative. We offset that with expense control. You'll see that on the next slide, but not to the tune of 74K. So you can see the expense control is 45K favorable. So the net is 30 plus or minus, total unfavorable. You know, the last slide, you'll see the fund balances. So the fund balances just reflect that 30K offset. If you look at the full picture, so Doug, you can go back 2 slides to the revenue. So if you look at the full year, if we did not book another dollar of program revenue, that puts us full year about 150,000 in the hole. In terms of just continued expense control, we probably get back, 80K of that, maybe. So there's potentially, if we do not restart programs to some degree and enable program revenue, we're looking at some kind of deficit in the order of 75K over the full year. So just as a way to get your mind around what we're talking about.
So just a couple comments on that. I've had Carrie start to look at what the net loss in programs has been for the past few months. So because when we don't realize program revenue, we also don't engage some program expense, and also project out through the end of the summer. We are hoping to be able to start up some of those programs, but in a pessimistic view, looking at some of the things that we have already put on the kind of docket as we're not going to do this. We were looking at approximately net out of just programs was going to be down about $27,000. And that was a pessimistic look. We are looking at starting up a few things, so that could help us there. This is, and that doesn't take into account or consideration a couple of things that we've already decided we're not going to do this year or have planned not to do as a kind of a reaction to this. We are not hiring a seasonal maintenance worker. That's a $15,000 savings. So that brought us down to about a $10,000 hole based on what, Carrie's projection. Again, this is just in program loss. There are some other losses and some other gains, some other more expenses that we've had because of this. I don't think they're as significant as the program loss, though. We do not anticipate that we will have not another dime earned in program revenue for the rest of the year. So that's just kind of in a nutshell and in a quick, brief glance. We were looking at that. And then the other thing that we were looking at saving some money on to get us to the $27,000 to the $30,000 was we had also budgeted in this year a new roof for the doghouse at $20,000. We could push that and push that project out to next year, save that $20,000, and then we make up basically $35,000 net. If we can hold that $27,000 line and make up that $35,000 net with those two items, we are going to be just fine. I will say that we are fortunate that we are a Parks and Recreation district. I know in talking to other directors at other cities and counties and at the state level, they are experiencing some significant impact, much more than what we're looking at with our situation. So while this is not great news, it's also in the grand scheme of things. We know why it's happening. We've just got to see what we can do to kind of generate some revenue on the program side, and we're working on that already. So we'll talk a little bit about that in the staff report. But it is not great news, but it could be much worse than what we're looking at.
Yeah, when you look at the revenue versus expense profile for programs, we realize $10 in revenue. If we shut the program down, we only get back $3 in expenses. So think of it as about a 1 to 3 ratio. So that's where the delta that we have to make up comes in.
Yeah, exactly. So it is.
Questions about the report?
Sorry, you broke up.
I was just saying, any questions about the report from any of the commissioners?
Not for me, Josh. All right.
Okay. If there are any questions, we can go on to the vouchers.
Yep. Did anybody have any questions about the vouchers?
So new items on the vouchers. I'll just run through them really quick. We had, scrolling down. Horizon, we ordered some irrigation supplies. Tom, that was was that the parts for the direct line from the wellhead?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so the health department asked us to put a sample line for the wellhead, so that they could sample directly from the well. Those are the supplies for that. We had SIBO's Do It Center, some more irrigation supplies. I'm guessing connectors for that as well. Some dog bags, some disinfectant fogger. So we are getting a disinfectant fogger to disinfect the bathrooms and other surfaces, and some pellets, some actual disinfectant tablets to put in to mix with water to fog the bathrooms. These are going to be items that we'll use a couple of times a day to disinfect bathrooms in the offices, as well as disinfect bathrooms in the park. It's going to save us significant staff time wiping down the bathrooms at least once a day. So we'll go from 2 times of complete cleaning to 1 time of complete cleaning and 1 time of fogging for the bathrooms in the park. This will, meet the standard that other districts and agencies are maintaining, as well as what we're being told the CDC is looking for from us. And then some more disinfectant supplies for programs. So, and then what else do we have? I think that was it. Yeah, that's all of that. And those are the vouchers. Any questions on those?
No.
Okay, if no questions, I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers for 69-20305.
I'll second that. Jennifer?
All in favor?
Aye, Eric.
Aye, Jessica.
Matt, aye.
Josh, aye. Okay, so we'll move on to the staff report.
Okay. And it's taking its sweet time pulling itself up. There we go. Come on. There we go. All right, staff report. You can see here at the top the classes we've postponed, canceled. We are looking at phase 3 as being some opportunity to open some of these up and restart some of these programs. You can see here's what we're coming up with. A lot of what we're looking at is some of the individual type stuff. We're holding off till we reach phase 3, and we're looking at each program on an individual basis and seeing what kind of safeguards and guidelines we have to put in place. Smaller enrollments to accommodate physical distancing and other type things like that. So we are working on we also have are instituting a new waiver and working on the language in that, and working with our risk management agencies to talk about the risks involved with the COVID-19 and having that waiver be in place. The would-be triathlon we're doing as a virtual triathlon. We've been processing refunds where applicable. We currently have 23 registered for the virtual, and we received official notification that our permit from the city of Langley was canceled, so they refunded some money to us for that, or are refunding some money to us for that. Swim lesson programs. This is one that we have done some research on. We've contacted other swimming pools that run swim lessons, and all of them have canceled these programs until we get to a point where the in-person contact is possible. It is not possible. I've taught swimming lessons, and Carrie asked me the question, how can we do swim lessons and maintain physical distancing and maintain no contact? And I'm like, you could do swim team, because you can basically minimize the number of kids in a lane and have them swim. So we are going to do swim team, but swim lessons, we have not found anybody that has found a way to do those yet. And maintain the physical distancing and the safety guidelines. So we are keeping that right now out. We're awaiting approval from the school district for reservations for the courts. I'm understanding that is possibly going to be happening as of June 19th. We were told nothing until at least June 19th, so we're going to hold on that and see what happens. And then we're going to hold a little bit on the fall activity guide and wait and see where we go, and push that timeline out a little bit so that we can do more programming if possible in the fall. Children's Day, the event usually draws well over 1,000 people and would likely draw even more right now with everything else being canceled. We are working with the other groups, and that committee has decided to cancel the event this year and bring it back next year. Adult co-ed softball, we have word that there are 4 teams forming. We usually have 5 or 6. There will be a lot of adjustments required for safety, and we're implementing those right from the start and getting that information out to potential teams. Facilities and grounds, we've seen a lot more activity in the park. It's almost a near normal level. We obviously don't have the group activity yet. And with Island County applied yesterday for a movement into phase 3, we were told it's going to be potentially a longer timeline for that, but with that change, group activities up to 50 would be allowed. And I know I've already been contacted by South Woodview Soccer Club, and already have some contact from South Woodview Little League, and I know high school teams would possibly be wanting to use our fields as well. So we are getting ready with guidelines for them to be able to say, this is what you need to do, or this is what we expect. If up to 50 people, we're going to probably spread the goals out on the sports complex soccer fields. The soccer goals, spread them out, so we won't have 2 goals together. We'll likely have each goal in a different area, so one team has their own space, but they're off by themselves. So that we're not having 2 teams working together, 3 teams in the same area. Try and spread out the usage. We are getting into summer. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about an actual summer season to replace the spring season that was basically canceled. It's sounding to me like it'll be more of a few teams practicing through the summer and doing some off-season workout. But that could be changing. We won't know till we get some reservation requests in, which should be happening in the next week or so. Done a little bit of trail work. Everything's growing extremely quickly right now. I don't know about your yard, but mine needs to be mowed pretty much twice a week, and I'm falling behind big time. So we're doing a lot of mowing. We did see the skate park get tagged with Black Lives Matter. Cleaned it up as quickly as we could, and people were on the skate park again once we finished up. Lake usage seems to be above normal lake usage, especially at Lone Lake. Other things, a lot of time taken up with reviewing, monitoring ongoing restrictions and plans for the next phase with COVID-19 Safe Start. I've developed procedures for reopening the office with staff, and we plan to reopen with safeguards in place. For example, the first thing we're going to be doing, or the main thing we're going to be doing, is 1 member of the public will be allowed in the office at a time. We are going to post signage at the building entrance giving a phone number to call. We will then allow them in. They must wear a facial covering, and we will be doing a lot of disinfecting of commonly touched surfaces and that kind of thing. A couple of things that I put in the report, but I will be talking about those in the comprehensive plan, so I won't go into those here. And the state has now updated the OPMA, the Open Public Meetings Act interpretation. And this was the State Attorney General's office, and they issued guidelines for entities wishing to take action in meetings. We were already following the guidelines, and these new guidelines are good through the end of today. So we can take action in our meeting today, and that being the case, I have added a few items to the agenda that we wouldn't have done last month, because we can now take action on them. So we've got the South Woodview Parks and Aquatics Foundation Memorandum of Understanding, and then a couple of other items, including the racing show with the Island Rowing. So any questions on the staff report?
Yeah, I actually have a question on, you mentioned risk management. I'm interested, are they taking on this assessment of what, like program assessment, what you can and cannot do? Are they giving you guidelines, or is that from agency to agency?
It's a lot of, so they don't like to tell you what you can and can't do. But what we do is we will come to them and say, hey, this is our plan. What concerns you? And they'll give us, hey, we have concerns with this and we have concerns with that. We're doing a lot more. We do a lot more with guidance, reaching out to other agencies and what they're doing and what their interpretation of the guidelines are, and really reading through and digesting the guidelines to make sure that we're in compliance with them. For example, the Would-Be Island Triathlon. We submitted our plan and we talked about putting out buoys, and they really had concerns about people swimming on their own and giving them a different option and not putting out something that was a marked, quote unquote, marked course. I was going to put up finger quotes, but I'm not on the screen. Quote unquote, marked course that we were kind of directing people towards, but to say, hey, you need to swim this distance, you need to run this distance. If you don't have access to a place where you can swim safely, you can get out a rowing machine, you can do other things. So they gave us guidance onto what they thought, and they will give us comments, direct comments, if we give them a direct, like when we talked about the waiver, we do send the waiver to them for their input and correction and telling us, yes, you can do this, no, you can't. And they do give us information on that kind of stuff.
It's just an interesting road we're going down with risk management that I've dealt with a lot in the school district. And it's just, I guess my concern on that, or question more so, is ask you, like softball, for example, softball can start up if, what is guiding as we start to open programs? Is it case by case and we're using common sense? I understand you can look at other agencies and park and rec programs, but they've got to be in the same boat too, trying to figure it out.
So USA Softball has issued guidelines. We do get some guidelines. The state, the governor's office in the state has given guidelines on specific activities like tennis and what you need to have in place, how you need to deal with, disinfection or social distancing or other things like that. So we start with the state guidelines, and then we look at what other agencies are talking about. With regard to softball, we're talking about social distancing in the dugout, not having teams in the dugout, not having teams be on the field for risk of a foul ball, but spectator limitations, not having spectators for these events. So those are the kinds of things that we are talking about with the teams and putting those in place. And we get them from a multitude of locations, Eric. It's not. I wish there was one spot we could go to and have everybody tell us this. There isn't. So we're trying to use common sense, number one. Number two is going to the agencies that would sponsor similar type activities: USA Softball, Washington Youth Soccer, and looking at the state governor's guidelines.
Yeah, just wanted, so there's a multitude of information out there that we're looking at as we're trying to put together. It really is a plan for each program because they're so different, and will they wear masks? Won't they? How can they spread out? And making sure that we're able to communicate that to the customers so that they know what they're getting into when they say that they're coming. It's some of the things are going to be less appealing, but I do feel like we are taking on, by having programs and offering things to our community, we're taking on more risk. And the insurance folks acknowledge that, whatever we're doing, we're taking on more risk.
Right, but they also haven't said you're not covered for that, because they are basically our insurer. So every time that I've talked to them, they've said if you're following guidelines and what you're getting, and it all makes common sense, we're covering that. So it is anything we do is a risk. It's how we manage that risk is the important thing, and that's what we're working on.
And I just want to clarify one thing so you guys are all aware. I'm not running every single program by the insurance folks, just the new ones and ones that we're uncertain about.
Anything else on the staff report? Okay. Josh, did you want to move down and talk about the racing shell and then jump back up to unfinished business?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Not in now.
All right, so let's do that. If the link will open. So every year now we are doing an inventory, and this year, and this is what came out of our audit last year, and this year in reading through the list, we knew where everything was, but there was a racing shell listed that had been purchased many years ago. And I asked staff about it, and it was because I haven't seen a racing shell here. It is a rowing shell, and it's been listed on staff inventory, but we understood it to be with Island Rowing, but we couldn't identify its whereabouts for the inventory. So we purchased this at least 8 years ago with Island Rowing. Island Rowing got a bunch of donations towards it. We purchased it because we had the some way to take the donations and do this. I wasn't here for all of it, so it was a collaboration with Island Rowing. In the interim, it has been used to run rowing, learn to row programs, learn to row camps through the Park District. The Park District has gained some revenue from that. It is still in service with Island Rowing. It does need some refurbishment, is my understanding. But at this point, what I would like to do is I would like the board to declare it surplus and donate any interest that we have in it as a district to Island Rowing. We have no need to own a portion of this. We have seen far more in revenue, I'm thinking, than we probably spent on it many years ago. And if we want to do a joint program with Island Rowing in the future, they have been more than amenable when we've wanted to move ahead with that. So I don't see a reason to keep it on our inventory. It just becomes a question mark for auditors. So,
Okay.
What kind of boat is it? Is it a single, a quad?
well, Ellen could talk more about that. Ellen, do you want to kind of chime in?
Yeah, thank you. It is a quad. Well, it's a quad now. When it was purchased, it was a 4, and Island Rowing spent $1,500 to $2,000 to refit it as a quad. And we've done some other work on it since then, and we're actually looking to do some work on it. As soon as this gets cleared up, we need new runners and new seats. But we've been using it. It's been a workhorse. I think it was at least 5 years that we ran a number of rowing programs with South Whidbey Parks and Recreation. And we'd be happy to do more in the future as well.
Any other questions, thoughts? Staff recommendation is the board just, it's a motion and a second to declare this as a surplus item and then donate any interest that the district has in it to, or donate it to Island Rowing. Donate our interest in it to Island Rowing.
I'll make a motion for declaring it surplus and donating it.
I second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Matt says aye.
Jennifer says aye.
Josh says aye. Did we get everybody there?
I think we're waiting on Eric and Krista.
Aye, I second. Yes, aye.
Aye, Krista.
It is unanimous.
All
So we will make sure we get any kind of documentation that we need to over to Island Rowing that is now theirs, and we have no, and we'll take it off of our inventory list. Thank you, Ellen. Appreciate you calling in. You don't have to hang on
Thank
anymore if you
you.
don't want to.
I think I will say goodnight and leave you to your big agenda. Thank you very much for hearing this at this very challenging time for you.
Thank you, Alan.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll move to the unfinished business.
Mm-hmm.
Comprehensive plan programs and the campground phase 1 update.
So campground phase 1, we have received comment now from the sheriff, the fire district, and the school district on the proposed access. And we'll be finalizing our site plan review response and putting that together. Dr. Moshe's initial objection was thinking that would be more of a residential campground, so people would be living there. When I sat down and had a Zoom conversation with her and we walked through it all, she was very comfortable with it and sent me an email saying she had no objection to it. So we can do that. Since I wrote this up, I have gone through. The county asked me to redo the open space impervious surfaces throughout the park. So I had to recalculate for the entire park what surfaces we have existing that were impervious. So this is the third time I've done that. And I've gotten that together, and just in case anybody ever asks you, once we have the campground in, we're about 5.85% impervious surface in community park and the sports complex, with the full campground build out, including bathroom space. So we are well below their threshold, just, in case you wanted to know. I'm going to be putting all that together and getting that over to them. I've already given them the impervious surface stuff. I've just got to go through and tabulate everything else and make sure that I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And hoping to get on that ASAP. Probably not next week, because next week I'm going to be online doing review of local parks projects all week online like this. So I will be all day on Zoom call. It'll be so much fun. So that's where we stand with campground. The Waterman property is the other thing that I've got in the comprehensive plan programs note, and that we are looking at. We have received finally the initial appraisal that we had redone. It is back, and we'd forward that on to SH&H, which is the review appraiser, for their review appraisal, which is required for the LWCF grant process. The initial appraisal that we just had redone came in actually about 10% lower than the previous appraisal. So I've also started a conversation with our grants manager at the RCO about the impact of that. It was related specifically to the timber value decreasing since we had that first appraisal done a couple years back. So that's going on. The review appraisal is projected to be done in mid-July. So I'm hoping to have some sort of actionable item, if not for our July meeting, because it is an early meeting. It's a July 15th meeting. Hopefully by our August meeting to be able to take action and finalize everything and pull the trigger on that property purchase. That's those two items. Anything else that anybody has questions about with the comprehensive plan? I do have some stuff I do have some visuals on the amphitheater that we just got last week that I'll be sharing with you at the end of this, but at the end of the meeting. But those are just graphics that we're going to continue to use and go forward and get some public input on.
All right. Was there any questions on that? Okay. So we'll move on to the new business.
Okay. The other item that we've had sitting waiting was the memorandum of understanding with South Woodby Parks and Aquatics Foundation. This should be coming up on your screen if it already isn't there. The only thing that we asked them to change from the first was to put in office space for operations staff and for park district administrative staff. That has been changed and added in right in here, and you can see it there. So staff is good with this, and the board had no other issues with it. So this would be just an approval item. Staff sees no reason to hold this up anymore.
Okay.
So this would be a move and second, and then full on vote.
I'd make a motion to approve the Parks and Aquatics Foundation District MOU as shown.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Jennifer, I.
Krista, I.
Eric, I.
Josh, aye.
All right, passes unanimously. reopening. So today is basically the day that day after Island County has submitted a request to move to phase 3. We have gone through the state reopening requirements for a business like our office, which includes a lot of this stuff here. We're going to post signage at the entrance, strongly encouraging or requiring our customers to use cloth face coverings when in the office with our staff. Educating our employees in the language they understand best about coronavirus. I think for all of our staff, that's English. You know, I speak a little French, but would not want to be explained in French. 6 foot separation between clients and employees and all interactions at all times. And when not possible, use of the facial coverings. You know, all of these things here is what we're looking at and how we're going to be doing this. The fogger that we just ordered, which should be here next week, will help with that and reduce the amount of times, but that we have to, you know, go in and actually wipe down, clean every single surface in a bathroom. This will save us some time, but for the most part, we're looking at limiting the number of people in one place at one time. We have in our office the luxury of both Carrie, Peggy, and myself all have a separate office space, so there really isn't, unless we're having a meeting, there really isn't any close contact. So we can all work at the same time, but if we needed to, we could do shift work as well, or people can still work from home if they so choose. These are our plans. I'm just bringing them to you as more of a informational. This is, you know, one of those kind of, we kind of got to do it if we want to open up the office. So that's what we're doing. Does anybody have any questions about these?
Doug, what are the additional PPE requirements for the lucky person who gets to use the fogger?
You know, I have to look at that. I have to get the actual chemical here and see it. I've got to read the instructions on it, but until that time, we'll be, you know, once we are open, we will be cleaning bathrooms. I will be cleaning the bathrooms in the office twice a day. Our staff is already cleaning the bathrooms twice a day in the park. But right now our bathrooms are not open to the public, so it is not an issue. Once we have that, I will look at what is required for that. I need to sit down and go through that. My gut is it's probably, this is a fairly mild disinfectant. I don't think it's going to be a significant thing, but I could be wrong. And we're not going to start using it until we have that in place.
Just based on some of the things that I've seen online, it's pretty significant equipment.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I remember when I was growing up, we would acid wash bathroom floors once a month in the pool, and we had to have boots and masks and full on equipment like that. This may be similar to that. I don't know if it's to that extreme, but it probably is, at least a more significant mask than a cloth face covering and some sort of eye protection.
Yeah, it's the inhalants that I'm worried about from a lung standpoint.
Well, I'm worried about inhalants as well as eyes. Those would be the two that I'd be most concerned about. The other stuff would be more protective of clothing and skin. I think skin would be a minor thing, but I want to make sure that whoever is doing this, because most likely it's going to be me in the office going in and doing the bathrooms. So I want to really make sure that I'm safe, but if somebody else is using it in the park, I want to make sure they're safe as well and that we distance ourselves from the community when we're doing it. Any other questions on this? Okay. Okay, last but not least, so I received, feels like a week ago, but time is really weird right now, some concept drawings and some information from Eric Richmond, the architect who's been very kind with Flat Rock Productions to donate his services up till now and he hasn't asked for us to start paying him yet. So he has brought forward these concept drawings that I'm going to start with of the proposed amphitheater design. Now, I do have some issues with some of this. First of all, right here, this grass strip is going to be an issue. These grass strips are going to be difficult. From an ongoing grass growing kind of scenario in the summer, this is going to not grow grass. It's going to dry out completely. We don't have irrigation or water in that area. So our recommendation from a kind of a visual as well as a maintenance standpoint, because obviously we can't fit one of our riding mowers down this strip, is to cement all of this or block all of this so that it is not, so that it can just be blown with a backpack blower. You know, from a maintenance standpoint, that's going to be a lot quicker, and it's also not going to require irrigation to keep the grass nice and green in the summer months when we're going to be using this more often. The actual design to me is beautiful, other than, you know, having that one issue with it. I think he did an incredible job. He listened fairly well. He just, you know, he really wanted those grass on the steps. But I like the fact that there's a open field space behind it with grass that we could mow with that kind of a mower, and then just blow off the steps where people would sit closer. I love the storage space at the back, and then we can take this out and get public comment on it. Take this out, you know, and these can be visuals for grant applications down the road once we get public input and all of that stuff. So it's a really good starting point and a great option for us to have. The other thing I did want to show you is this cool thing that he also sent me. And it's going to take a minute. So this is kind of a video representation coming in over the baseball fields, and you can see a little of the parking that's being designed in here, pathways up to the amphitheater. He's kind of just done a video look at a concept here, which would be incredible for grant applications and other options, and showing people what we're actually talking about.
Just one quick comment. If we're going for the appearance of grass between the steps, I would recommend looking at a synthetic in that area. They've come a long way. We had synthetic installed down at the baseball field for our batting cages 13, 14 years ago, and it's held up amazing with cleats and tennis shoes. And there's different naps of it. I mean, you can go to 1.5 inches, you know, that looks pretty realistic as grass. And so if that were to be all concrete, they would basically just apply that, basically glue that right to that surface, and it would give you that appearance of grass strips between. And, you know, that's my recommendation instead of a natural grass surface in that small area.
Any comments, any thoughts on that? I thought it looked pretty good, other than the one concern that both Tom and I had about the grass and actually being able to grow it in that area and maintain it. Matt, I see your lips moving. I can't hear you.
Yeah, my personal feeling is I like the idea of it being brick, you know, like you were talking about blocks and bricks. I think that works too. I think we're going to get pushback from the public if we make it synthetic. So I would either say grass, real natural grass, or blocked in. Just my opinion.
What are your thoughts, Matt, on the synthetic? What would be the pushback? I'm curious.
Yeah, just it's not, doesn't befit the natural setting there. I think there's a lot of work that's been done in the layout, and it's the first time I've seen it. I think it's beautiful. I think that natural setting, the one thing that would not be natural would be that. I mean, even the construction of the amphitheater itself is emphasizing natural materials, it looks like. So
Yeah.
I just think it would be the one thing that was out of place. I mean, it worked. I'm sure it worked just fine.
Any other thoughts? Yeah, I think we could do something fairly nice with block or brick that would look really cool, and I think he could play with that and make that look really nice. You know, this is going to be really good for even just this is going to be really good for us to be able to take to the public and have them see and comment on and look at and go, wow, this is cool. This is going to be really nice. You know, my goal is, you know, there's some other issues that we need to look at is, you know, this is a bowl. How are we dealing with drainage when it rains? How are we dealing, you know, where's the electrical coming from? How are we going to do all of that? So we've got to go now and take this and crunch numbers and get good, solid numbers in for grant applications on permitting. I have to calculate exactly how much impervious surface we are adding with this and get that ready for the application process. But I honestly, the design to me is pretty much dead on what I was thinking. Very solid, long-term, you know, amphitheater type space, which is great for use down the road. So this is what we're looking at, and this is going to help us significantly going after some of these grants.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I'm just wondering numbers of people. Like what is the hoped for capacity?
We were talking, I believe, I mean, the stage we were looking at trying to hold, you know, be able to expand out. And that's why, so if you look at, I'm going to go back to the pictures. So, oh, no, let me go back to the pictures. So I got to go there. In looking at, where are the pictures? So in looking through the pictures, we had talked about having space in front to have enough space to hold Saratoga Orchestra on the stage and expand out off of it maybe a little bit. And then additionally have seating out here. I believe we were talking similar in seating to what you know Wicca could hold, which I believe was 500. But that's for the whole space, like the whole grass area and everything. So this might be 250 up front, and then people picnicking in the back. But that's about, you know, twice what we get on a normal concert in the park. We usually get between 100 and 200. So if we get 250 to 300, that would be awesome.
Cool.
Normally, when we have a decent turnout at the concerts in the park, it's about 250.
Okay, so it would be a little. It would hold more than that, is what we're looking at.
Yeah, my only other comment is that I think it'd be nice if we just issued some kind of a thank you on the part of the board and the staff to Eric for the donation and time. I mean, this is way above and beyond. It's amazing to me the amount of work that went into this pro bono for the park. I think we should formally thank him in some way.
Well, let me put together kind of I'll do some sort of a proclamation, and we can invite him in and thank him for his work to this point. You know, maybe at our July meeting, or when we can meet in person again, might be a better time to do it. But we're still on the road to this, so you know, let's definitely acknowledge his efforts, and feel free, if you know Eric, to reach out to him and thank him personally. I think that
I don't know if he did it intentionally, but I love the fact that there's social distancing in all these pictures.
Yeah, they're all separated out. I don't understand why the one guy is wearing a bathing suit in the picture, but you know, whatever.
I know, I saw that too, Doug, and I was like, well, that's kind of weird, but okay. Maybe he just came over from the slip and slide. I don't know.
Maybe. Any other comments, thoughts on this? But yeah, Matt, I think that's a great idea, and definitely I can start looking at a proclamation on that, and we can put something together thanking them, and so we definitely want to acknowledge that. Okay, that I believe is all I had on the agenda for this. Oh, wait, I don't want to do that. Let me double check here. That would be it. Yes. Anything else?
I just want to remind everyone to please send their email to me for the voucher approval.
Yes, definitely do that. The commissioners, please send that in and make sure you use your full name as you have in the past.
And we are confirming a dollar amount of $69,203.05.
Yes, plus the property fund for $7,700.
Thanks, Peggy.
Sure.
Okay. Josh, anything else?
All right. Nope, I have nothing else. So I will call the meeting. Sorry, go ahead.
Any other commissioner have anything else? Okay, Josh, it's all you.
All right. Calling into the meeting at 6:51 p.m.
Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you later.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.